Hello, hello. So, this week of the fatigue fix, we are talking about how to balance your hormones. That's a huge, huge, huge topic. So, at first, I want to just get a little idea. If you have been here before, go ahead and say that you are a pro, that you've been here, you've heard some of this information, or you heard me speak before. And if you are new, also let me know that in the comments. And if you are watching this live, this is coming through an app called StreamYard. So if you do make a comment, I won't be able to see who you are. It'll just say where you're commenting from. So you might need to leave me your name and let me know if you have a question or a comment that you want me to address on that specifically. So I have notes here because, like I said, this is such a huge topic. I'll be kind of looking down at that and making sure that I address the information I wanted to get to today. But this is something that is really important. And I want to impress upon people today, especially that usually if we look at all the symptoms we may have for some, one thing, or we think is one thing, usually when we're correcting things with nutrition, supplements, even medications, a lot of times other things will follow. So we just have to understand where all this is coming from and understand our own bodies and our symptoms that we're having so that we can overcome these, in a shorter, more efficient time. But we have to have the information. So we're going to, again, be talking about how to balance your hormones. But the things that we need to look at too are, what do signs of imbalances of our hormones look like? Okay, that can be a big topic as well. It can be different for everybody. But what I'd like to do first is just to mention, who is this for? Who is this for as far as listening to me pretty much on any talk that I do, any type of training that I do? It's for people who are sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's for people who have struggled with symptoms for maybe it's a month, maybe it's, 16 years, whatever it might be. They are struggling with something and they're not really finding the answers, and they're looking and seeking and willing and wanting to figure out what it is so they can do the work and feel better. Who I don't do these for, or who does it won't resonate with these people, is if you are looking for a quick fix. If you're looking for me to give you, one supplement or, one food to eat or some magic potion or patch or something to help you feel better, that's not who this is for, because it's much deeper than that most times. All right, so this is something that I feel passionately about because I have dealt with hormone imbalances. I mean, if you are alive, you are probably dealing with hormone imbalances. It's just to the degree of what you're dealing with them that causes people to seek help, right? So not everybody has the same issues. Not everybody has the same issues to the same level. And so it just really depends on what you're dealing with. But my situation, both now professional experience being credentialed in what I'm doing and the people that I work with on a regular basis for the last 11 years dealing with their hormonal imbalances, that has given me so much insight, and I've seen what actually works and helps people. But not only have I done that professionally, I've dealt with it personally. At the top of the chain of the hormone imbalances was thyroid function. But what I thought it was just like my female hormones that were out of balance. I always thought it was that. And then we could wrap in to that as well as like the stress hormones and the things that you deal with when it comes to stress and your mood and anxiety and depression, all goes into that. And that's the thing that's really important to understand here, that one thing leads into the other. And so when you do corrective actions, that can help all of the other imbalances as well. All right. So it's just kind of a nice way to work through things. You can actually help several things by starting with focusing on one thing. So that's the point I want to get across to you as well. All right. So with all that I've been through and dealing with my own health issues for, some time, I am now in a really good place to be able to help people understand where their problems are coming from and how to make corrective action on that. And then also, I have resources for you should you need to go to the next level and get prescription medications. I have people that are good people and are in the know that can actually get you the medications that you may need. All right, so let's go back to the topic here at hand, how to balance your hormones and what are imbalanced hormones. Someone asked me that in the poll question a couple of days ago, what are symptoms of hormone imbalances in the first place? So these are just the things off the top of my head that I wrote down before jumping on here was the first thing is fatigue. That's something that people come to me, especially women come to me all the time, but I do believe men struggle with that as well. Weight loss resistance, that's probably the number 2 thing that people come to me for is weight loss resistance, or even weight gain where it doesn't make any sense. You haven't done anything different. You haven't maybe you don't think you're eating more, you're maybe exercising more even. People are gaining weight for no apparent reason. And sometimes we know when we're not doing well with our food. So, that's not a shocker. But even when we're actually kind of dialing in the nutrition piece of it, people are gaining weight. You might have bad skin. You might have acne that you would have thought you had had as a teenager, and now you have it worse in your 30s or something like that. That happens sometimes with people. Bad periods, I just kind of lump it together and just call it bad periods. It could be the length, it could be the heaviness, it could be clotting, it could be the pain that comes with it. So bad periods all the way around, or even in one symptom might be normal to you, but it might not actually be normal. So having, a 14-day period is not normal. Not even though it's normal for you and it's been that way for years, it just doesn't mean that everything is balanced. Okay, so those are the things that we need to look at, as well as I think I already talked about the weight gain. Sometimes people can't build muscle. You might be doing the workouts where you're doing resistance training and you are just not getting anywhere. You're not changing your body composition, meaning you're not putting on muscle. You're not looking and feeling better in your clothes because you can't put on the muscle, and you're not able to kind of release the fat that you should be when you're building the muscle. And then oftentimes I'm hearing people talk about, thinning hair, their hair falling out, and all those kinds of things. So all of these things can be hormone related and hormonal imbalanced, but this is just the top of the list. I mean, there's also headaches. There's also, kind of nausea and things like that people have, stomach issues. So it just sort of goes on and on and on. So chances are, if you're listening to this, and if you're watching the replay, make sure you comment that below too, is that you probably have some kind of imbalance, but we just maybe don't know exactly what it is. All right, so let's talk about the top 4 hormone imbalances that people have. All right, so the one that I have dealt with a lot in my life are thyroid hormones. Okay. So thyroid hormones, and I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty of all of that because we've talked about that in a recent training. So you can go back to that if you'd like. But we talk about the thyroid hormones, and also if you're listening to this live or on replay, and if you have not yet received the thyroid reboot training, it's a free download of videos on thyroid training and or thyroid rebooting, what you need to know for your numbers and that kind of thing. Just put your comment below that you want that, and then we can set you up and I can get you a message so you can download that for yourself. So take a look at that. The thyroid hormones are super important. And the thing is thyroid hormones have an effect on every single cell of the body. So if your thyroid hormones are, quote unquote normal, based on standard ranges, but you have a ton of symptoms still, that like some of the symptoms that I just mentioned, that is probably saying that your thyroid really isn't normal. We just need to look at an optimal ranges. Again, let me know whether you're live or watching on replay. If you want that download, it is free and it'll help you sort of discern the numbers and look at where your numbers should be. Okay. So thyroid hormones, super important, and are impacted by other levels of hormones and impact other hormones. It's kind of a two-way street with that. Then we need to look at our blood sugar hormones. We don't really think of that, but insulin is a hormone, all right? And if you have this ongoing ups and downs with your blood sugar and you are craving sugars and sweets and carbs all the time, if you have symptoms of low blood sugar, such as fatigue, nausea, insomnia, anxiety, poor gut health, you are probably having an issue with your blood sugar and insulin hormone. Okay. So you need to really work on that. And you do so by making sure that you are eating proper amount of protein. We've talked about that numerous times, but minimum of 100 grams per day. Okay. Start with protein first and getting good quality fats. So we're not talking about trans fats in processed foods and that kind of thing. We are talking about kind of whole food fats like coconut oil, butter, if you can tolerate dairy, ghee if you can't. Ghee is clarified butter. It has the milk solids taken out of it, so it doesn't have the casein in it. You could do olive oils, walnut oils, avocado oil, eating avocados, things like that are better quality fat, and you should include that in every time you eat something. You should have a little bit of fat, for sure protein, and that will help balance your blood sugar out. And then for carbohydrates, you need to have good quality carbohydrates. You don't want to have the junk carbs like in candies and cookie, like the processed commercial baked cookies, popcorn, things like that. If that is your go-to and that's the carbohydrates you eat and you're monitoring those carbohydrates, those are doing more of a disservice to your blood sugar and insulin control than having those on occasion or eating, vegetables, good quality fruits, lower glycemic fruits, starchy carbs like sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, things like that. I know it's funny to me. It's curious to me how people will often be, I don't eat sugar, and I for sure avoid bananas because they're so sugary and stuff, but they will have no problem eating, a bowl of popcorn every night watching Netflix. And let's just be clear, if you haven't heard this before, that those types of carbohydrates, all carbohydrates, I don't care what they are, will convert into glucose, which is blood sugar, in your system. So I wouldn't worry if you're one of those people eating more of the junky carbs on a regular basis. Don't worry about eating a banana. I just hear that a lot. So I just wanted to highlight that if you're already not eating more whole food type of carbohydrates, the banana is not going to be the thing to cause issues with your blood sugar and insulin. It's going to be those other things. So every time you eat, and ideally you would eat 3 meals a day, maybe 3 meals and a snack. But ideally, you eat proteins, fats, and carbs, prioritizing the protein first, fill up on that first at each meal, and then whole food, better quality meals. I also have a free meal plan. If you have not gotten that, that's been around quite a while. Again, you can comment in the box saying that you'd like that, and I can send you the link to get that as well. And that is also free. And that just gives you a good template for eating whole food, 3 meals a day, proteins, fats, and carbs, and balancing out your blood sugar. Okay. So if you are able to balance out your blood sugar, you are going to help your thyroid hormones work better, more efficiently. Okay. So that's how those things tie in. All right, so then we could talk about the stress hormones. Who here isn't stressed? All right, sometimes we have more stress than others, more times of stress in different times a year. If you're traveling a lot for work, if you have a long kind of icky commute to work every day, that is stressful. We have a hard time getting away from stress. Don't even think you'll probably be able to, but it's how our body is able to adapt to that stress and become resilient is what is going to be the game changer for you. So one of the main stress hormones, there's others, but the main one people talk about and seem to be that most people understand is cortisol. Cortisol is a stress or a hormone that responds to stress to help you move through your day and help you adapt through your day so you can feel and function normally. So one of the things that happens or how this works. And one of the things that happens is because we have imbalanced thyroid hormones, we have imbalanced blood sugar and insulin happening, then we end up with cortisol all over the place. And then we are constantly in this fight or flight, and then eventually a freeze state where we don't really get anything done and we're tanked with our energy. And it just zaps us of all of our vitality, basically. So if you are under chronic stress and you're not biochemically able to manage it, you are going to exacerbate the imbalances with your thyroid and blood sugar. Okay, do you see how everything builds upon everything else? And it's kind of the whole which comes first, the chicken or the egg thing. They all impact, and they're all, I would say, is equally important. So we need to deal with that. So how cortisol works is that every morning we have a rise in cortisol. It should be like the highest peak of cortisol that you have throughout your day, because you're supposed to wake up. You ideally wouldn't even have to use an alarm clock. Your body would just naturally wake up because of that peak of cortisol. And then you would be mentally ready for the day, physically ready for the day, and you would have energy to power through that day. Then about three other times in the day, you're going to have another surge of cortisol, but they're all going to be lower than this first one. So the first one's up here, and then it's just going to come down a little bit during the day until bedtime. It's going to be the lowest surge. Then you can shut down, rest, restore, and recover. But here's what's happening most of the time. Most people are having not hardly any surge in the morning. They peak during the day. They come way down at 2-3 p.m. Are you tired at 2 to 3 p.m.? 4 p.m. maybe? That's a sign. And then often it peaks way up when you're supposed to be going to bed. So then people are tired and wired, and they think, oh, I'll just get stuff done and I don't need to sleep till late midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And then they wake up in the morning and they're starting over thinking, how are they going to make it through the day? And it's just this vicious cycle. Well, over and over and over again, that stress on the body impacts the thyroid hormones, the blood sugar, and then it keeps that cortisol out of balance. So also you'll find, and I talk to people a lot when they are maybe diabetics or their children are diabetics, and they have a hard time at night staying asleep because their cortisol will spike because their blood sugar is not in control. And then they wake up at 3 p.m. or 3 a.m., 2 to 3 a.m., and then they can't go back to sleep. If you are having that symptom happen over and over and over again, then there's a good chance your blood sugar is jacked up, which is also jacking up your cortisol at bedtime, and it's keeping you awake. All of that puts more stress and pressure on the body. It just, one thing begets another, okay? Either way, good or bad. So how do you remedy this? So I already told you with the blood sugar control, I talked about eating proteins, fats, and carbs every time you eat. And ideally, you would be able to work yourself down to eating 3 meals a day. And if you need a snack, maybe that fourth time of eating in the day, but you don't eat. This is one of the big things to do, is stop eating 2 to 3 hours before bed. So if you normally go to bed at 11 o'clock, you should not have 1 drop of any kind of food or liquid that is, sugars, calories, protein, whatever, past 8 o'clock. Okay, no macronutrients past 8 o'clock. If your bedtime is 11, that's what you should work towards. So what I would say for now is, if say your bedtime is 11 typically, and maybe you're eating right up to bed, maybe you're eating in bed, what I would suggest you do is just make a rule that the kitchen's closed, the pantry's closed at 10 o'clock. Work at an hour or half hour, whatever you need to do to work back, and then just keep pushing it forward. And just that alone, you will start to feel better. You will start to feel better in the morning. You'll start to probably feel like you're lost some weight in the middle because your cortisol levels are coming down. Your blood sugars are going to be better in check and controlled, and everything will start to just feel better. You're going to sleep better. Your digestion will be better. Again, everything rolls into the next thing. Okay. So I can't see if there's any comments, and if there's comments later, I can always get back to them. But just gonna see here. Okay, so if there are any questions, you're just gonna have to let me know. I am here to answer them. and give you more insight into that. Then let's just talk about the last thing. It's about the sex hormones. So we're just going to talk about kind of the big three, but primarily the big two: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So as women, we have all three of those hormones, and testosterone is one of those things that we're sort of told we don't need because we're women and we have a very low level on standard lab values that's kind of the threshold that we are sort of allowed, if that makes sense. And the chances are is we need a little bit more than that. That's a whole, we could do a whole separate thing on that. I won't go into that too much. And I'm guessing there's a good chance that if you were to go look back on any hormone panels that you have, there's a really good chance that they're not even looking at your testosterone levels. And that's doing a disservice to women on that, because it is important for thyroid hormone production. It is important for muscle building, and muscle building is so important, especially with aging in general. You need to keep your skeletal muscle to remain healthy. And then that goes back to the protein intake. You got to provide your body with the amino acids so that you can build the muscle. All right. You really need to hone on that. If you don't do anything else, if you don't take one action step from this video other than making sure you get a minimum of 100 grams of protein per day, I don't know what I was going to say about that, but that's the minimum thing you need to do. If you can't take in anything else to do from this training, just at least do that. Okay, start working on that. All right. So then estrogen, progesterone, these two are sort of the main hormones that deal with your cycle every month. So if you are someone who has bad symptoms, PMS, PMDD, probably been put on Prozac or something like that to deal with it, your mood swings. It has been classically, I don't know, it's really kind of an annoying thing that people say about people's moods. If you're a female and you have, a low mood, they're always asked, kind of flippantly, are you PMSing? It's sort of a derogatory thing. And, maybe that's the case, but it is a true thing and we can help support it. So we don't have the fluctuations in mood. We don't have to have the pain that is associated with this. Other cultures and countries of women do not deal with the things that we deal with in the United States and other North American countries. It's really frustrating that this information isn't out there and that there are kind of simple things you can do even before you get to the need of maybe some kind of hormone replacement. So what we need to do is to, again, go back to the protein, fats, and carbs, making sure you get ample amount of protein. Then with the carbohydrates, if you are struggling with the symptoms of, heavy periods, a lot of pain, maybe some clotting, some issues with your iron levels and things like that, you can always take an iron supplement depending on what it is. If you need a good iron supplement, reach out to me, because those can cause some icky side effects if you don't get the right one. But the thing is, you can eat cruciferous vegetables. Okay, that's going to be broccoli, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, things like that. If you take those in on a regular basis, you are going to you're going to make huge progress on balancing out those hormones, because those types of foods will pull any of the excess estrogens in our system that are caused by our environment, or maybe the junky foods that we're eating, and will help pull that out. And because that excess estrogen is what's causing a lot of those symptoms. And even on blood work, this is kind of the interesting thing, is that even on blood work, if your estrogen is in the normal range, but your progesterone is super low, that looks like estrogen dominance, and you can still have those symptoms. So that is where the best thing is to use those supportive foods. And there's a ton of other things. There's rosemary, there's rhodiola, there's glutathione, there's milk thistle, there's turmeric. There's so many things that you can help pull those excess estrogens from your body, but you're not going to find them in processed and packaged foods, or you're not going to find them at the drive-through at a fast food restaurant. You need to eat real foods as much as you possibly can. So action step with that is, with regard to the food, is if you are eating on the fly all the time and choosing quick fix foods, then just start with one meal. It's hard to look at changing everything you're doing. So look at one meal. What can you do to make a difference? And I would just suggest starting with breakfast or your first meal of the day and make that meal awesome. Okay, make that meal really good. Proteins, fats, carbs, high quality foods. You can eat vegetables for breakfast. You don't have to have cereal and like a cereal bar or granola or whatever. You can actually eat vegetables at breakfast. You don't have to have pancakes, or you can make pancakes that are maybe a little bit better quality with better protein and that kind of thing in it. You can adjust there, but just start with one and start with there. That will go a long ways with helping your thyroid hormones, because you're giving your body the fuel you need. You're going to be balancing your blood sugar. You're going to be mitigating stress because you are supporting your body with the nutrients you need to manage your stress. And then with your sex hormones, it's going to help to mitigate the excess estrogen that you can get from junky foods. Okay. So start with that. If you need to increase your progesterone, and you might notice this if you have some insomnia, if you have trouble staying asleep, if you have trouble getting to sleep, whatever that might look like for you. Oftentimes people, prior to starting with a bioidentical hormone or things, you can start with an over-the-counter professional line of progesterone that is made from, I believe it's like wild yam or something like that, that can help with that time of day. So I would do it before nighttime, before you go to bed. I have one that I use with people on a regular basis, and it really helps. Now, if you are further down the line of hormonal changes, it might not be enough, but it's a good place to start just to see if it kind of helps calm the system. Progesterone, think about this. Progesterone has a natural, mildly calming, sedative type effect. And think about that. If you talk to your parents, your moms, and you talk to friends over time, one of the first thing that changes when hormones start to change, they all have trouble sleeping. And a lot of it can be changed by making sure they have the right amount of progesterone. All right. So again, balancing your everything out with the proper foods, proper nutrition, supplements when you need them, and getting the right supplements. That's a whole other training as well. That is something that's really important to do and will actually help you feel and function so much better. And I have like I said, I have my notes down and I have lines drawn because one thing affects the other. It's just like one big maze mess. It all goes together and it's all important. You don't, compartmentalize our health. And it's kind of a curious situation because in our medical system, which makes total sense, you have specialists. We have specialists for endocrinology and OB-GYN and pulmonology and, immunology and all these things, right? Which makes sense. You want experts in that specific field. However, a lot of times one of those specialists does not talk to the other. My experience has been working with my endocrinologist, and I'm there already doing my thyroid hormones. Could you check my insulin and, a couple other things? Could you also check my progesterone, estrogen? He's like, nope, you'll have to go to your GP for the blood sugar stuff, and you'll have to go to your OB-GYN for the sex hormone stuff. So it makes it hard to get all the information together unless you are working with the right person. So that has kind of left people to believe that we are these little compartments and that one thing doesn't affect the other. And it does. Okay. It all works together. So there's so much I could talk to you about all of this. There's so much information. It's just a huge rabbit hole to get into. But the takeaway should be 100 grams of protein for sure to start working on that. If nothing else, if you cannot do anything else, do that. And then working to try to eat the proteins, fats, and carbs each time you eat and try to get that into a 3 meal a day, maybe 3 meals and a snack. And then, try to eat those things in a better quality whole food version as much as you possibly can. All right. So we can get into all the nitty gritty of this. There's so much, like I said, into it. In my membership program, I have this awesome membership. It's called the Fatigue Fix Inner Circle. It is a monthly membership. There are so many resources and modules. You get live training every month, similar to this, but deeper with specific action steps for each thing, so that, again, you're not super overwhelmed. And it just makes it easy and consumable. Plus, once you're in there, you have an ability to reach out to me and work with me more one-on-one, for exclusive rates, like exclusive rates for any kind of testing you might want to do, for people who are in that membership and are sticking with me. And then you get, more and more support that way. So it's just a really good thing. So if anybody is in here live watching the replay, wants more information on the Fatigue Fix Inner Circle, it's a very, very low barrier to entry with regard to the monthly rate on that to get you in there. And like I said, then if you want more, you can do more with that for a better rate. So that's how you access that. So let me know and I can reach out to you and get you more information on how to do that. I'll put the link in the comments. And I hope that this has been helpful. I hope it resonates with you. I hope it gives you something that you can do to help move the needle in the right direction for you, at least a place to start. And to know that also, this is also valuable, that if you have these symptoms and you've been told that you're fine, you're normal, you're just getting older, and it's just a part of aging and you're supposed to feel like garbage, I hope this gives you a different view, that this is not how it's supposed to be. It can be better, and you don't have to just succumb to the symptoms and just deal with it. You can actually feel good and function and thrive and actually just live a really, really happy, fun, and healthy life. So, all right, that's it for this week. Next week, I'll be back for more, and I hope this has been helpful. And thanks for showing up. Bye-bye.